I love you.
Going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Bears After Dark. We are in here like swimwear, and I'm with the most beautiful man at 670 The Score, the man, the myth, the legend himself, host of Bears Nation podcast before everything, from the Ohio State University, Kevin Lapka. How we feeling?
Dude, let's go. It's been a minute, Mikey. It's been a minute. We haven't been on this shit in a minute. You know, we got to rock out with it. So it's Bears After Dark. We're going to get crazy with it. You said before the show, Mike says, I got something crazy for you to start. So I'm expecting big things, Mike. I'm expecting big things.
Dude, I'm excited, bro. I mean, there's a lot of different conversations going around right now. Obviously, you've been one of the biggest, if not the leader of the charge of the Justin Fields era. I mean, there's so many different ways we can start this conversation, Kev, and I don't know where I want to start with because me and you got into it. There was beef. I mean, these are two former teammates who won a Lakeshore Drive championship together. I mean, two dogs, two absolute phenoms on the field. But what came to be the biggest collision ever was DeAndre Swift on a 3-year, $24 million deal. Kevin, I'm upset. Make me not upset. Make me okay. Help me understand what's going on in Kevin Lapka's thought process. A man who I know a week ago said it was between Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley. And
I did not say that.
He was like, yeah, man, we're getting one of the two top running backs. And not once did I hear this man utter the name DeAndre Swift in 4 years. Did I never hear this man say, you know, that guy DeAndre Swift's pretty nice. Kevin, I want to give you the floor. Break down to me what the future of the Bears running back core looks like, led by your favorite player of all time, DeAndre Swift.
Well, I need to know, first of all, what makes you so upset. In order for me to help you, all right, if I'm here to put you through some Bears therapy,
Go ahead.
what is it? I need to know, is it the contract? Is it the player? Is it a culmination of both? I need you to air your grievances, and then I'll tell you why you're absolutely wrong.
Okay, so check this out. Here's where I'm at with it. And a lot of people might say I'm wrong. Depth is huge when it comes to winning a championship. You know that better than anybody. It's one of the biggest key indicators. We got Miguel Montero coming in off the bench, hitting a grand slam against the Dodgers in one of the biggest games in Chicago Cubs history. So everybody matters. Every single player from top to bottom, especially in football. It's next man up mentality all the time. But I'm reading Twitter, and when some guys make a little comment, hey, listen. You bring in, let's say, DeAndre Swift. How much is he getting yearly, Kevin? Year one, how much would you say he gets?
I mean, $7 million.
All right, $7 million. And then you bring in 5 backups. So the argument was, well, maybe if we just didn't bring in 3 of those backups, you could have paid a guy like Saquon. And when you have $80 million at the start of free agency, obviously we're going to take into account Montez Sweat. We're going to take into account Jalen Johnson, some of the biggest free agency signings the Bears have had. And obviously it happened a little bit sooner than a lot of people would like because people are forgetting about those things even happening. Those are huge free agency signings. But Kev, my conversation is you had the money to bring in a guy like Saquon. Saquon even vocalizes with his camp, we're a top 3 finalist for him. I understand Penn State, he's a Pennsylvanian himself. So maybe he wanted to go to Philly this whole time. But the conversation is we could have and we didn't. So where are you at as it pertains to, was this more of a, we don't trust Saquon thing, or we just don't want to pay Saquon?
Yeah, I think it's a culmination of both. Look, I am not the biggest fan of the Saquon contract, if I'm being entirely honest. This is a player who has proven to be injury prone, right? And they're paying him upwards of $12 million a year. And in today's NFL, like it's just hard to find a running back contract aside from Christian McCaffrey where that's worth it, right?
Right.
So like the argument that I've made though is the Bears do have the money to spend on a player like DeAndre Swift. They do have the money to spend on a running back. Traditionally, you know this. Like I'm a big fan of drafting a running back in the 5th or 6th or 7th round or an undrafted running back and spend very little money on them because their shelf life is 3 to 4 years and then you're on to the next one. Like there's only a handful of running backs in the league right now who have been consistent for the last 5 years and will continue to be consistent, right? And
Right.
it's just a rarity in the league in this age, and the valuation of running backs has just plummeted. But the Bears found themselves in a situation now where you don't have a 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick. So you can't find your solution at running back in the later rounds. And you have other holes to fill that you have to fill with your picks in the 1st round, the 3rd round, and the 4th round, because you don't have a 2nd rounder. You got 2 1s, you got a 3 and 2 4ths. So that's all you got in this draft. You got to fill edge rusher. I'd like to get another tackle. I'd like to get defensive tackle this. I'd like to get more offensive line depth. And obviously we need a receiver. And of course, they'll address quarterback and likely at number 1 overall. So you're filling holes. And that face is hilarious. We'll talk about this. You're filling holes, and you had to upgrade at running back, and you can't do it through the draft. So you look and you say, all right, we got $80 million. We can spend $8 million a year on DeAndre Swift. I don't want to spend $12 million on Saquon for a 4-year contract. I want to spend $8 million on DeAndre Swift for a 3-year contract, the guy who can be versatile. But guess what? We still have Roshan Johnson. We still have Khalil Herbert. We can have a good room where DeAndre Swift doesn't have to be a bell cow RB1 because he hasn't proven that he's been able to do that. He just hasn't, right? I mean, and that's fine with me because he's not going to be asked to do that. They're going to split carries. He'll be a great receiving back. He'll be versatile. He'll be used in dynamic ways in the Shane Waldron offense. But I just think they found themselves in a situation where the only way to address and upgrade running back was through free agency. So I can't be mad at it, Mike. I just can't. And I don't know if you don't like him because he hasn't had that much production in the past,
Right.
but in this offense, again, he's not going to be asked to carry the ball 25 times a game. That's just not his role in this team, but he's explosive and he's dynamic. And I think they'll use him in a multitude of ways that'll excite you.
And I think you're right. Like, and that's the big thing right there is I've heard it nonstop. I've watched Swift since college. I mean, he was one of the biggest running backs coming out of that draft. You know what I mean? What he was able to do at Georgia, he was one of the more dynamic, explosive, and elusive athletic players that we've seen in years. The thing is, so was Justin Fields, and that just hasn't translated to the NFL for a guy like DeAndre Swift. Now, Fields, it's translated, but it hasn't at the same time. I feel like there's that middle gap. You know what I mean? Like from a running perspective, it's translated. From a passing perspective, we just haven't seen that yet at a consistent level. But with DeAndre, I go back to Hard Knocks. I continue to talk about Hard Knocks. Now, Hard Knocks doesn't tell you everything. Hard Knocks isn't going to paint a picture of who a player is. But I'll tell you this. You go back and watch the Detroit Lions and Hard Knocks with DeAndre Swift, and the running back coaches chew him out every single episode. Dan Campbell chews him out. He can't hit holes. He doesn't see them. If he wants to go right, guess where he's going, Kev? He's going right.
Oh, right.
This man could have a wide open guy on the left side, but he's going right every single time. And that's or it's the other way around, whatever it is for him. But it's one of those things for me where it's like, you need it your way or the highway. And that's really what it is. If he sees an open gap up the middle, he's not taking it. He's not seeing it or he's not taking it. I don't know which one it is. 7 injuries in 4 years was what I pointed out to you. Those were knick-knack injuries. I was just busting your balls. I think, at the end of the day, everybody's a little bit banged up if you play the
Especially
running
backs. Yeah.
I mean, even look at Saquon. Saquon tore his ACL or his Achilles against Eddie Jackson and the Chicago Bears. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, do we want that back in the room? You know what I mean? Shout out Bojack. But that's probably the greatest play he's ever made. But I think at the end of the day, for me, I haven't seen that dog in him. I understand where you're saying in the red zone and at first down, he's going to be very productive. And let's say, for sake of argument, for everybody tuning in, there's a lot of Fields fans I see in the comments. Sure, you can have that Jalen Hurts and DeAndre Swift duo between Justin Fields and DeAndre Swift. At this point, we can make that argument until Caleb Williams' pro day and other things happen. Who knows? But I think the real thing for me is, at the end of the day, Detroit moved on from you for a reason. Philly would rather have Saquon Barkley for a reason. And we always talk about those big name guys. You know what I mean? Like, you and I spoke about Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams. I mean, you and I grew up talking about guys like Calvin Johnson, those X factors on offense, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones. The list goes on of all the great Aarons. But I think at the end of the day, man, you look at the Bears. When was our last big X factor on offense? And I would go back to the days of Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall, and we just haven't gotten that yet. So I think for me, it was more so of like I knew what was out there, and I'll tell you this: if DeAndre Swift was the best running back in free agency right now, in the entire free agency class, I should say, I would say, okay, if it came down to Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, and DeAndre Swift, I'd say the Bears took a huge W. But when you see some of the best backs in the entire league on the board, and you got me DeAndre Swift when you had some of the most salary cap space, I hear where you're coming from, but I also look at it and say, to your point, if you draft Caleb Williams and you have a rookie quarterback contract, I don't care if I have Saquon for the next 4 years getting paid a lot because I don't have to pay Caleb. That's where
Yeah.
I was at with it.
I mean, so it seems like it comes for you. It comes down to the fact that you had the money to pay, and you're willing to pay any running back the amount of money they asked for. That's what you're asking. Like, no price was too high for you. $12 million a year wasn't too high.
There
for
was a
Saquon?
price there, like Josh Jacobs' price was kind of wild to me. You know what
So
I mean?
that's the whole point.
But Saquon's,
That
I didn't feel like was out of that realm for what he's been able to do. You know what I mean? Like if
I
you look at
know.
it for what it is, and it's like, let's really break it down. Let's see. Let's do us one better. Name 3 offensive linemen on the New York Giants from 2017 on.
Andrew Thomas, Evan Neal, and I can't name a third. Crap.
It's the
Andrew
problem though.
Thomas,
You know what I
Evan
mean? And
Neal.
it's like,
Yeah.
but Saquon's been one of the best backs every single year. So we even saw it earlier. They were talking about it. Could he be the best Eagle running back statistically when it's all said and done? And I said, it's a conversation. There's McCoy and there's them boys. But, I think at the end of the day, Saquon's going into a situation where the line's better than McCoy had. The quarterback plays potentially better. You have all these different weapons. I wouldn't say potentially. I would say Jalen Hurts is better than McNabb or any of them. But I think at the
Ooh,
end of the
really?
day, I would say so. I would say so.
That's a good conversation to have.
I
Yeah.
think it's a conversation to begin. You know what I mean? If Jalen's there for another 5-10 years, I think it's easily said than done. But let's get into it, man. I don't want to just talk about Swift with you. We gotta get into it. No, I'm playing. Let's be real here. I wanna break down some numbers. Now, I'm not going to name all 5 backups, but I'm just going to say there's 5 backups the Bears signed on 1 to 2 year deals. But the big ones right here, Jalen Johnson, 4 years, $76 million. Montez Sweat, 4 years, $98 million. DeAndre Swift, 3 for 24. Gerald Everett, 2 for 12. Mr. Simone Biles on a 2-year deal as well. And today we got Pryor and a bunch of other guys that apparently I wasn't pronouncing the names right of earlier, and I had to practice all night long. But I'm not doing it anymore. I'm tired of talking about it. But we got a bunch of backups. Backup quarterback, a few guys that I'm excited about, a few guys that I think could be huge. You and I saw what was able to happen last year. Tevin Jenkins goes down. Lucas Patrick, Cody Whitehair were very short at every single position offensively. So I'm excited to see the offensive line get up. But I wanna ask you something. When you see them go this direction, $100 million last year, $80 million this year. You don't get Roquan Smith. You don't get Saquon Barkley. You're not over-exacerbating the cap. Does that show you potentially, hey, if you have a rookie quarterback for the next 4 years, they even spoke about it. Why do you get Danielle Hunter, Kevin? Oh, because it doesn't matter. It's a 2-year deal, and you don't have to pay C.J. Stroud. But you would have to pay Justin Fields. You would have to either hit that $38 million franchise tag or that $25 million 5th-year option. So the way they have constructed this roster thus far, Kevin Lapka today, would you say, based off of the moves in free agency, they are preparing for a Justin Fields extension?
Oh, he's hitting you with it. This was your big bombshell?
This was the big bombshell because if you look at it, he's not killing us for the foreseeable future. These are all solid deals. You still got a bunch of rookies, the Tyreek Stevensons, DJ's on a solid deal still. Cole got paid. If you look at it right now, if today Ryan Poles came on this pod and said, the reason I didn't get Danielle Hunter is because it's JF1 to the moon, and we're going to extend him, and we're going to pay him by the end of this season. Okay. I got nothing for you. Fuck Saquon. Forget the rest. Yeah. Where do you think this is in the realm of possibility?
I think it's in the realm of possibility. It's really interesting because you're right about the fact that everything the Bears have done seemingly from a transactional standpoint, forget what you hear from Rappaport, forget
Right.
what you hear from Schefter, right?
Oh
Because
yeah,
at the end of
ignore
the
it,
day,
ignore it, ignore it,
dude,
ignore it.
no one knows anything, right? And it's all smoke. If you take a look at what the Bears have done transactionally, it would lead you to believe if that's the only information you knew, that they would be keeping Justin Fields around, right? Like, you make a great point when you talk about, okay, saving money for what reason? And there's other explanations for it, right?
Right.
Like, they might not feel like they're going to win the Super Bowl next year, so they'd like to save a little bit money, and then hey, next year's there you break the bank on all the guys like Danielle Hunter and the aging, free agents that all these teams are signing, because it can be hard to justify paying $45-50 million for 2-year contract, 3-year contract to a guy that's on the wrong side, going to be on the wrong side of 30 when the beginning of the year starts, in your team that you don't believe is ready to win right away because you have a rookie quarterback, right? But I think it's in the realm of possibility, Mike, that what you're saying is true. Like, and maybe, again, I mean, it's hard because free agency comes and goes so quickly, but like, maybe that's still a possibility, and they just haven't committed to that yet because they just don't know what they're going to do with Caleb Williams and do with that first overall pick.
Right.
And that's what I've been saying for the longest time, is like, this is a good thing for Bears fans to recognize that Ryan Poles is being diligent and keeping everything on the table and not making any rush decisions that can't cause him to do the alternative if what he decides is, or what he thought he was going to decide, is the wrong choice. So if he had approached, say he entered the offseason January 8th and traded Justin Fields immediately, right? He traded Fields immediately, and then he had gone into a meeting with Caleb Williams next week when they meet, and he hates him. He doesn't like him for whatever reason. Like, imagine that possibility. And now you've given up Justin Fields, and you could still draft Jaden Daniels, but maybe you weren't that high on him either. And you have given up an asset, and you've now taken a route and made a rush decision into a route that you don't want to take. So I think, Mike, I wouldn't say there is causation between what the Bears have done in free agency and keeping Justin Fields around, but I would agree that it is on the table that, hey, if we decide that we don't want to draft Caleb Williams, maybe we will keep Justin Fields around. If that happens, we will have to pick up that 5th-year option, $25 million. We will have to, put the franchise tag or extend him. And in that case, we can't spread ourselves too thin before we make that decision. So I think that's why you've seen this be a slow build in free agency, and why they haven't decided to break the bank. And Mike, outside of Danielle Hunter, there's no one I really wanted them to bring. Okay, I lied. Christian Wilkins is a player I really wanted. I really wanted them to pay Christian Wilkins, but that's a guy who got 90. What did he get? 90 million? Did he get 100 million?
It was close. It was the upper 90s. Without, I believe it was still in the 90s. I think it was more closer to Montez Sweat's contract of like 98 million, something along those lines. It was definitely one of those
110 million.
It was 110.
I'm not paying 110 for 4 years, dude. I'm just not.
Is it guaranteed, or what were the guarantees?
No, the guarantees 84. Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's a huge guarantee percentage still.
It is. It's around over a little 20 over million a year. So, I mean, I definitely hear where you're coming from. And like, to play devil's advocate and continue having that conversation, like, you look at the way they structured it with JJ, Sweat, and all of them. You still have roughly, you told me it was around $19 million around 3 p.m. And I believe now it's probably sitting around 15, 17 after they brought it on. I think they made that final signing. And I believe it was what? Amon got we're looking at a 1 year, $2 million deal. So that's about $17 million they have left in cap space. So I look at that and I go, okay, look, you have a shot to get Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going to be on a rookie deal for 4 years. You're going to be able to extend Justin Fields. You're going to be able to wait on guys like Tyreek Stevenson and Kyler Gordon to finish their rookie deals. Javon Dexter Sr., if you believe in him, Darnell Wright, all these different guys. They're all going to slowly, year in and year out. I mean, if you're playing Madden franchise, get ready, because, I mean, every single year, there's going to be more of your favorite players that are going to be free agents. This is going to happen very quickly. And Justin Fields is one of those first guys. Well, really, Cole Kmet and JJ were, but obviously now Justin's going to be one of those guys that we see next up. So the way they've done it, if you're going to sell me on that, I think it's a great idea. But I'm going to tell you this. If you draft Caleb Williams and you have him on a rookie deal, You look over at what the Houston Texans are able to do, pairing up Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter together with CJ Stroud at the helm after just making the playoffs at 10-7 season. Like, you have to have that real conversation and saying you're not doing your due diligence to make Caleb come into a perfect situation. Caleb's coming into a solid situation, but
Very
it's
good situation.
perfect situation. Right now, CJ Stroud, you can have a conversation that the Texans can contend for a Super Bowl next year.
I agree.
That's the legitimate conversation, and that's before the draft. They still have all the – if they want to go trade for T. Higgins tomorrow, they can. You know what I mean? Like, and if I'm the Cincinnati Bengals, I don't do it because that's how well they've constructed themselves. I think you're looking at a situation for me. If you bring in Caleb and then you tell me we didn't get Saquon or we didn't get Wilkins or we didn't get Hunter, I'm like, dude, you're a fool. But if you keep Justin Fields, extend him, or maybe you keep up that fifth-year option before training camp starts, okay, cool. It makes more sense to me. But in not knowing, Kev, is probably where the frustration comes from with a lot of fans right now. Because a lot of fans will just say, okay, let's say Gerald Everett, okay, cool. Simone Biles' husband, whatever. Kevin Byard, amazing signing in my opinion.
Love Kevin Byard, yes.
DeAndre Swift and 4 to 5 other backups. You look at that and you go, if that's what we're rocking with out of $80 million, you're wild. You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to, as much as I love to count Montez and JJ, you still had a lot of dough after you re-signed those guys. So it's like, where are you at right now for the weeks going on? Where is Kevin at right now? We have from 2024, we got about a month until the draft, a little over a month, and we have a week until Caleb Williams' pro day. So where's the mind of Kevin Lapka?
Yeah, so I think again, I think the Bears are taking this slow, and I still would say, I don't know if I texted this to you. I think I texted it to somebody else who asked me how I was feeling about the Bears free agency. I said I think their biggest move has yet to be made in free agency. I think they will. Again, they're letting the market come to them when it comes to these free agents. You could tell that Ryan Poles is not a general manager that overspends and makes rush decisions with free agents, right? Like, and that's completely opposite of what Ryan Pace was when he was here. Ryan Pace would throw however much money he wanted to whatever player. It didn't matter, right?
He got it done.
He got it done. And sometimes that's what you have to do if you are aggressive from the jump. But if you let the market settle down and you understand that, okay, there's less teams interested in this certain player after, X amount of days of free agency, then you can afford a player like Mike Williams, who's a big target for me now that he's been cut from the Chargers, and you don't have to pay him a lot of money because the Chargers still owe him $20 million off that contract.
Really quick though, is he a really big option for you? I know you said that the Chargers have to pay the majority of that, but I don't know, Kev. Like the way I've seen guys like Calvin Ridley, you saw Calvin Ridley's contract today was absolutely absurd. You're seeing wide receivers paid left and right. I don't know how much Mike Williams could potentially command, and I don't know what they would. Even Gabe Davis's contract, like it was a little crazy. But if you can get it for the cheap, I'm with you on it.
Yeah, so we can't demand much more than the veteran minimum because he's getting paid by the Chargers. So because his contract is paid, and I don't know how long that contract lasts. That was just effectively terminated by being cut. But he can't ask for $15 million a year. He can't ask for $10 million a year. You're probably looking at like a 1-year deal for like $5 million, and the last $20 million of that is paid by the Chargers, right? So and the thing is too, like if you are the agent of Mike Williams, you don't have a lot of leverage because the dude's coming off an ACL injury and he's been an injury-prone player his entire career. He might not even start week one. He probably won't start week one. I mean, he tore his ACL, I think, like halfway through the season, which probably puts him on track to be active like week 3 or 4, full go for a player of his caliber. So that's still a target. But look, I think as we talk about the quarterback situation and the timeline, I've long said again that they're doing their diligence and, they wanted to get this done quickly with Caleb Williams. They wanted to meet with him March 2nd. That was the plan all along. They wanted to meet with him March 2nd at the combine. It didn't happen. They want the medicals that he refuses to give for whatever effing reason, right? Like they want to know all these things and they won't know that until they go to his pro day March 20th and they meet with him for a full day experience at House Hall the day after. So I really think the timeline for the Bears is going to ramp up at that point. If they walk away from that meeting with Caleb Williams feeling 100% sure about him as a player that can come into the city and handle everything that comes with being the quarterback of the Chicago Bears, then they can go forward from there. They can say, okay, he's our guy. We can be more aggressive in a Justin Fields trade. We can maybe be more aggressive on the free agents that are still remaining at that time, which there will be there's always good free agents remaining, even a couple weeks after free agency. It always happens. Some big names that you wouldn't expect to be there in the wide receiver market. You look at guys like Hollywood Brown, Hunter Renfrow, Curtis Samuel, and Tyler Boyd. Those guys might not even come off the board in the next 3 days, depending on how things go. And then you look at offensive line, Tyron Smith, Connor Williams, Kevin Zeitler, and Dalton Risner. A lot of really good pieces there on the line. So I think you really see things for the Bears start to ramp up once they have made the organizational decision to draft Caleb Williams or to trade the pick if they walk away from it not being satisfied with who Caleb Williams is, and they go from there. And I think that's I think the timeline has always been that. And we've heard it from Ryan Poles because he has said, you know what, we read so much into this, but he said, we're going to do right by Justin and we want to get this done quick. That's what he said, right? He said that to the media. And I think we've read too far into it, but he, again, was expecting to do it quickly and know these things during the combine on March 2nd. There's a reason they wanted to meet with Caleb Williams 18 days earlier than they now are supposed to. There is a defined reason for that. And the reason is they want the answers and they want to be 100% sure on him so they can proceed with the rest of the building of the team. And that's why, it's frustrating to me because I know we're not just waiting on the medicals. I'm not saying Caleb Williams is hiding, some tragic, devastating injury, right? But why do you have to make things complicated? This is the status quo. 99.9% of players in the NFL just give every team their medicals. And I know you can talk about HIPAA and talk about, teams not wanting, or you not wanting to give teams your personal medical information, which is really not that extensive. And you got to give it to them anyway. When you go to the pro day, you got to give them the more extensive medical history. So, it doesn't make sense. He's kind of created some of the problems for himself. He's made Caleb Williams has made this decision a little bit harder for the Chicago Bears from a timing standpoint. But nonetheless, 8 days is when they'll have that full day visit with Caleb Williams at House Hall. And at that point, I would imagine you start to see things ramp up with the rest of their building of the team.
And I'll say this, though, I think 2 points to that. One, and this is more of just just shooting the shit. I couldn't be Ryan Poles. This is the worst job to have in the entire world right now, because right now there are so many different conversations about what could go wrong, what could go right. You look at it, the counterparts are insane. If, let's say, for the sake of argument, CJ Stroud, Jaden Daniels, Justin Fields, Drake May, Bryce Young, somehow, some way, let's say 3 to 4 of those guys end up being above average to elite level quarterbacks, and Caleb Williams is anything less than elite. If you're Ryan Poles, that's your ass, no matter what way it goes. And then the counterpart to that, if you don't take Caleb Williams, if you keep Justin Fields and Justin Fields doesn't have success, and Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Jaden Daniels, all these guys we're naming, blase, the list goes on. If they all have success, that's still your ass. No matter what way it goes, I think as long as Tyson Bagent isn't QB1 in 2024 at any point in time, you're in a good position to win. And that was for you, Kev, because I know we had conversations about that.
Because this is your fault. You thought Tyson Bagent was QB1.
It's fair. It was valid. It was
not valid. It was never valid.
He is a quarterback's Max Crosby, and I was here for it. The kid's got swag. He looks like my boy Jordan Johnson. We'll pull that clip up in a second. But
he's been replaced by Brett Rippon. Okay.
I said his name wrong.
What'd you say? Ripon?
Ripon. I said Ripon. Yeah. And then you know what?
I don't blame you.
Back to that, and because I don't work at the Score or I don't work in major sports, listen, if any announcer
you work for Fox Sports, bro.
But listen, it's Fox Sports Philly, so it doesn't matter. But I think at the end of the day, if I don't see him start a single game or take a single snap in a regular season or playoff game for the Bears in 2024, I don't give a fuck what your name is, and I'm not going to say it until then. It was Bagent for the longest until it was Bagent. That's just tell me it wasn't, Kev. Tell me guys didn't call him Bagent for the longest.
I never called him Bagent.
How many fans were like, I love Bagent? And I was just
probably.
No, man. In all seriousness, though, I love the point you make. I think it's a great conversation starter, especially with trying to do right by Fields. Why you wanted to talk to Caleb is because the 2 biggest names that were potentially interested in Justin Fields, and this is all according to media, and this is all according to socials, were the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Atlanta Falcons. And because you couldn't get those results or get those questions answered about Caleb Williams, now Russell Wilson's on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now the Atlanta Falcons have Big Kirko, and Darnell Mooney. So it's going to be interesting to see who's really a suitor for Justin Fields at this point in time next week if they decide we're going to rock out with Caleb Williams, but we don't want to keep Justin Fields on the roster. If that's the case, Kev, you kind of have to start playing this game where you just close your eyes and, throw some darts up to see who you're going to make a phone call with. Hey, are you interested in Justin Fields, the LA Rams, the Seattle Seahawks, the whoever? It really doesn't matter at this point. But I'm gonna ask a couple more questions for you, and then we're gonna bounce out of here. We got Fortnite going on. But no, man, I'm so serious with this next one because it bothered me because I didn't believe that there was validity to it, but I also understood where other teams might be coming from in the lowballing of their offers. Justin Fields is viewed as a backup to 31 different teams in the league. Kevin, in the words of Dave Kaplan, shot or no shot?
No shot, bro. No shot. And I saw this today, and I saw it in the car on the way home, and I've seen it. Like, this notion that, the league thinks Jacoby Brissett's better. The league thinks Sam Darnold's better. Look, Gardner Minshew. Look at all these teams signing these players. Yeah, you want to know why? Because they're available. You don't have to trade an asset for them. You can sign them for fucking $5 million that you won't ever see again. That's nothing. It doesn't have anything to do with Justin Fields. And it irks the hell out of me that there's people actually making a correlation between those signings and how Justin Fields is viewed around the league. We know at this point, I think, we know that the Bears have not aggressively tried to get rid of him.
Right.
They have not dangled him in front of these teams and said, hey, just take him. We want to get rid of him. Like I said before, they're being diligent. They want to hold on to their asset as long as they can before they are 100% sure about this literal franchise-altering decision. This is not what has happened the last 3 days is not an indictment on what the league feels about Justin Fields. He was rated higher than Trevor Lawrence in the NFL Top 100 list, a list voted by his peers around the league. And that sentiment is shared by coaches who speak incredibly highly of him ahead of every game and who speak incredibly high of him in interviews and podcasts and all these different things. So I'm just so sick of, somehow in the last month, the league has somehow believed that Justin Fields is a backup quarterback. You got people talking about him as a top 16 quarterback in the NFL near the last half of last season, and now just 3 months later, he's just not a starter. That's where we've gotten. What changed, right? What changed? Like it's unbelievable that we've gotten to this point where people legitimately think that because Jacoby Brissett signed to a team, they think that he's better than Justin Fields. I mean, it is negligent, it's lousy, it's lazy, and it's wrong. And I'm sick of it. And yeah, like obviously there's a little bit of Fields bias. You know how I feel about Justin Fields. And obviously I think he's better than what the average person thinks of him. But it is objectively true that there is not a correlation between the signings you've seen in free agency and a team willing to give up draft capital for a player. Those two things are not the same, and there's no comparison, no causation between what has occurred in free agency and the situation of Justin Fields. So I rest my case.
No, for sure. And you and I can both vocally speak that we were Trubisky fans. We were diehard Mitch riders. We were riding for money Mitch. But one thing you and I never did was overvalue what his worth was. If the league told us in 2020, hey, listen, the 31 teams in the league and probably 32, including the Chicago Bears, believe that Mitch Trubisky is a backup, I wouldn't argue with you. I would say, you know what, I've seen what I've needed to see, and I understand that that's just what it is. With Justin Fields, I've never felt that way since watching the kid since we were 15 years old on Max Prep Sports or Netflix QB1 Beyond the Lights. Like, never once did I ever look at this kid and say, kid don't got it. I always said It was him and Trevor Lawrence, and that's what that class was, 1A, 1B, and Trevor hasn't had any success versus Justin Fields comparing the two. I mean, Justin Fields has broken single-game NFL records. Trevor Lawrence has broken the heart of Jacksonville fans everywhere because they thought he was going to be the next Peyton Manning, and it just hasn't translated to that. Am I wrong? Am I wrong to say that this guy didn't come in here and put the team on his back when he had Kirk and Ingram and, oh my God, the running back room, the beautiful running back room that they had to where they had to trade one of these motherfuckers to the Jets just because they couldn't figure out what they wanted to do in a sequence? Like, bro, it's not rocket science. Like, at the end of the day, Kev, and speaking of, shout out to Gabe Davis, because as much as I love Ryan Poles, I heard that we offered Gabe Davis a very similar contract to what he signed for 3 years, $39 million deals. Big Cat from Barstool Sports said it best. Gabe Davis is a top 10 receiver once a month every season. And that's what the other 3 weeks, nothing. So I'm happy that didn't happen. But Kev, appreciate you for being here, baby. I got one last topic for you, and then we're out of here. What do you want to see out of this pro day from Caleb Williams that will either make or break your opinion on Caleb Williams? What are you is there anything you're looking for, or is it all just smoke and mirrors? We saw him at the combine smiling, cheering. Is there anything right now that you want to see other than his medicals?
I mean, no, there's nothing I can see. There's nothing the average fan and viewer can see, right? Like if you don't know what Caleb Williams is capable of as of now, then you haven't watched the tape, right? You haven't done your due diligence on your scouting of him. He is a phenomenal athlete who has rare arm talent, right? And good poise in the pocket. Now we question what he's able to do when good defenses throw things at him like Notre Dame did, right? That's one of the biggest question marks about him.
Defense, really.
Yeah, and the fact that he played in the Pac-12 does not help. How many good quarterbacks in the NFL are from the Pac-12? Right, it is an interesting question to ask. It really is. If he had played in the Big Ten, what it would be like. But the majority of it is really coming from what Ryan Poles is going to learn about him as a person. I think that's what this is all about. I really do. And I don't want to make Caleb Williams out to be a diva or a John McQueen or a prima donna, but there's undeniable questions about those things, right? There are undeniable questions about those things and question marks, and I think it's one of the driving reasons as to why they're being so diligent about this, right? Like if you take a guy like Trevor Lawrence back in 2021, right, in that draft class. I mean, he was touted as a generational prospect. He was touted as the sure thing, the same way Caleb Williams is. But this was a guy that like had no problems whatsoever. Like he was all football, 100%. Like he devoted his life to God and football. Yeah. Like you knew Trevor Lawrence cares about three things: his girlfriend, God, and football. Like that's all that mattered. But obviously, I think, and I don't know if he has a disposition of what he believes Caleb Williams is as a person, but I think he just wants to meet with him and be sure that, hey, this is a guy that can handle this, because we know there's a reason a quarterback hasn't worked out in the city of Chicago. There's a number of reasons, whether it's, bad marriage between the coaches and the quarterback, bad marriage between, the team that's put around him. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that when you are hit with the first bit of adversity in this city, it is incredibly hard to recover from. It just is. I mean, it's hard in any market. It's hard in New York. It's hard in LA. But in Chicago, the way we are and how desperate we've been for a quarterback, it makes it that much increasingly harder to recover and to respond to adversity. And the unfortunate thing for Caleb, I think, is he's put so much on himself already, saying he's better than Patrick Mahomes, saying all these things. I'm the best. I'm the greatest. All these things, right? And I love the confidence. I do. But you have to tote the line between confidence and cockiness, because the moment you struggle, right, it's that much tougher for you to respond because you set the bar so high for yourself now. Right. And like it's just a tough thing to do. So back to your question about the pro day, I think that they are just looking for more time to spend with him. You only get 10 minutes at the combine. You don't learn enough. They want to ask all the right questions. This is the final job interview. They want to make sure 100% that this is the guy that they believe can lead this team, because the guy who's currently there in House Hall, Mike, is the epitome of what you want from a character standpoint. He puts his head down. He works hard. He fights for his teammates. He's a great leader, right? And he has no problems. And knowing that you have that there and things still didn't work out, you have to imagine that they want to be sure that there isn't fragility in Caleb Williams that could cause him to crumble if things don't go wrong in a city and in a town where things traditionally, do go very wrong for quarterbacks. So that's what I'm looking for. And ultimately, like I will say, I think they'll come to the conclusion that he is the right choice. I think they'll come to the conclusion that, he can handle it. And maybe they'll be misled in 3 years from now. We'll be having the same conversation. But at the end of the day, they're being diligent, and that's all you can ask for, Mike. That is all you can ask for, and I'm glad they're doing it. And, at this point, you just got to hope and pray that it's going to work out.
For me, man, I'm gonna take it back to one of the best words I think that's in the English dictionary. It's vibes. Vibes are everything to me, and I think the big thing right now is hearing the vocalization of big name guys. This isn't a former teammate of Justin Fields like CJ Stroud saying that they should keep him. This is Jalen Johnson saying that, yeah, we would feel some type of way if he wasn't back in the Bears locker room in 2024 and beyond. You have DJ Moore saying that, yeah, listen, I've seen Caleb, I've seen Drake, I've seen Jaden. I don't think they're better than Justin. I want to play with Justin. I just had a career year with him. So I think the vibes of Caleb Williams, that's what Ryan Poles, Shane Waldron and company need to figure out. Listen, when he comes into the room, if we're going to make this move that could potentially disgruntle everybody in the locker room, is he going to be able to be respected when he walks in the room? Because obviously there's going to be a target on your back for some guys, 100%. No matter what. Jalen Johnson, he's one of those guys. He's one of them. I believe no matter who the quarterback is, maybe he does feel some type of way, but he won't let that pour into practice. Yes. He won't let that pour into camp. That's just what it is. But if you come in acting like God, acting like your shit doesn't stink, these guys are immediately going to cash you to the wolves. And don't think they won't, because we've seen it happen with guys like Trey Lance. We've seen it happen with so many guys before where, hey, Brock Purdy just does his job and, he makes the right read. So that's his job now. You know what I mean? We've seen the same conversations time and time again about guys who mentally, whether you're a Mitchell Trubisky and you can't have the TVs on in Hallis Hall while you're working out because you don't want to hear people bash you, or whether you're like Johnny Manziel and you just don't really give a fuck.
Right.
At the end of the day, you need to figure that out. But Kev, baby, I appreciate you for being here. Appreciate you for always tuning in. We're about to get out of here, so make sure you check out Kev on Bears Nation podcast. Him and Jake do amazing things. And Kev, really quick, because I don't know the days, where could people listen to you on 670 The Score?
Dude, Saturdays 3 to 6. I'm a producer on the Saturday show 3 to 6. So, I'm not talking all the time, but, I'll chime in for NFL things and Bears things because it's a national show that syndicates on The Score, basically. We record it from the studio, but it's a national show, so we touch on all things NFL and all things betting and NBA and things like that. But I'm like the NFL and Bears guy. So 3 to 6 on The Score. If you're ever in the car or listen on the Odyssey app, you can hear me through there. But and then sometimes they'll just put me on randomly throughout the week. I was gone a couple times throughout the week on Parks and Spiegel, just for dumb shit. So I can't no schedule for that. But
this is what Ryan Poles wants to see out of Caleb Williams. Kevin Lapka. That is the standard. But Kev, you said you got one more thing, baby. What's going on?
Oh yeah, I just have one more thing. This just came into my mind. Just real quick. I know we had a couple minutes. And I don't know if people are still watching on TikTok.
We got about 7 people in here, so we're pretty good.
Yeah. I just find it really interesting. So Tennessee just gave Calvin Ridley a crazy contract that I think is crazy. $90 million. But because Tennessee gets Calvin Ridley and because Atlanta gets Darnell Mooney and fixes that wide receiver 2 spot, and I think Drake London's really good. That takes out 2 teams ahead of you from taking a wide receiver in the NFL draft. So now you have a real good option for Neighbors or Odunze to fall to you at 9, which is exactly what you need, especially because they haven't made a trade for a free agent pickup for a wide receiver 2 at this point. Although we did mention Mike Williams, we are not sure if that'll be the case. He might just want to go to an instant contender. He's older, right? He might go to the Chiefs or the Cowboys. So you get a lot of help from the Tennessee Titans and the Atlanta Falcons making the free agency transactions they did. And it is likely that one of the top wide receivers will fall in the draft. So I just want to throw that out there because that's huge. So
I like it. I like it a lot. And I kind of just spit on that really quick.
Yeah, real quick.
Kev, all in on Will Levis or trading up for another quarterback for the 3rd year in a row? What's going on with the Titans right now? Pollard, Ridley, how would you evaluate that?
You cannot trade up for a quarterback if you're them. I mean, you just can't. I mean, I think they're all, and all in's the wrong word. Like the $90 million is there, but you look at a lot of their contracts, dude. It's older, expiring players that, hey, look, you know what these teams want to do? They want to put fans in the seats and they want to print fucking jerseys and make money. Like that's what, dude. This is what owners care about. And look, Tony Pollard, big name. Calvin Ridley, big name. And like they'll probably win 7 games this year, but they'll go all in on Will Levis and it won't work. And then they'll move up and draft a quarterback next year. That's exactly what will happen.
I'm with it. But until then, baby, make sure you hit that follow button on Bears Nation Podcast or the Shy.Kid, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. We are in there like swimwear every single day talking about the Chicago Bears. Until then, this is Bears After Dark. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon after I finish some work I'm running late on. Peace.